I don't know if it was on your calendars, but today is reality check day. We're going to have a little chat about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and we're going to start with this article, Dear Corporate Democrats, the Left Doesn't Need Your Discipline, by Lauren Martinchek. Many of us lefties are completely done with being sheepdogged, and so for that reason, the conclusion may bother you, but we'll start out with both sides of the story. Lauren is on the pro side of the AOC story. With even Donald Trump now showing signs of acceptance of his loss and Joe Biden poised to become the next president of the United States, perhaps the most predictable aspect of the entire election, aside from Donald Trump's refusal to concede, has been the behavior of the corporate Democrats in response to their embarrassing results in what should have been a landslide for the Democratic Party. Prime targets, of course, have been everything from the Black Lives Matter movement and their calls to defund the police to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Medicare for All, and the Green New Deal. Unsurprisingly, among the most irritating weigh-ins of the entire post-election discourse came from West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who took to Twitter to write, "Defund the police? Defund my butt! I'm a proud West Virginia Democrat. We are the party of working men and women. We want to protect Americans' jobs and health care. We do not have some crazy socialist agenda, and we do not believe in defunding the police." Attached to these, for lack of a better word, embarrassing remarks was a Washington Examiner article concerning Senator Manchin's stances, where he laid out his clear opposition to everything from Medicare for All to adding Supreme Court justices to the bench. The Washington Examiner's Selena Zito wrote, "His proclamation limits the Democrats once Biden takes office. It means that even if they sweep January's Georgia runoffs and end up with 50 seats, with Kamala Harris as vice president giving them the majority, they will be unlikely to bulldoze through revolutionary changes." As much as it might bother Joe Manchin, Black Lives Matter and calls to defund the police are not intended to keep him in office. Aside from the fact that activism such as theirs is not driven by polling and focus groups, their goals, thankfully, are not centered around the political power of a chastising center-right-wing corporate Democrat like Joe Manchin, who serves no other purpose outside of being an active and intentional barrier to progress. But of course he wasn't the only lawmaker to send a shot across the bow and lay out their grievances with the left in the wake of the election. On a private leadership call, the contents of which were conveniently leaked to the press, Representative Hakeem Jeffries reportedly said, "Do we want to govern or do we want to be internet celebrities?" Obviously, this was a not so thinly veiled attack on Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. An attack that, given the number of them coming all at once, seems to be a coordinated effort to diminish and thwart what they clearly see as a rising, increasingly vocal, popular, and powerful left among their ranks. AOC's response was exactly what one would have expected. Writing on Twitter, "Pretty astounding that some Dems don't believe it's possible to govern, be politically popular, and command formidable bully pulpits at the same time, but it actually explains a lot about how we got here. We don't have to choose between these things. We can do better and win. Wouldn't it be nice if just once the Democrats would devote the same type of energy they reserve for fighting the left to fighting Republicans instead? Wouldn't it be nice if instead of trying to discipline and browbeat activists and progressive lawmakers alike through the press, they were actually learning from them and listening to what the future of the country has to say?" I'm going to stop right there with this article and explain that even though it would be nice, they'll never, ever do it. The corporate Democrats have been a bulwark, never failing, for at least the last 30 years. And because it's happened to us twice, some of us are suspicious when someone like AOC comes into the picture because she seems a lot like Bernie Sanders. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, and I've got my head so far up my ass that it's never going to come out. From the comments under one of my videos a couple of days ago, we're reminded that Donald Trump hasn't actually been defeated yet. I thought I would throw that in here just to mix the pot a little bit.
Projected winner or projected to win. Okay, you know what that is? That's an opinion. That's not a fact. And a projected winner, as per the media, is not how the winner of a presidential election gets decided, okay? Let me break this down to you really, really quickly how this process works, okay? The winner of a presidential election does not get declared until Wednesday, January 6, 2021, okay, at 1 o'clock p.m. in a joint session of the United States Congress with the House and the Senate when they get together to read off their receipt of certificate of votes, okay? Those are the certificate of votes from the states, okay, where on December 14th, mark that date down on your calendars as well, the electors of the Electoral College, each in a separate session, get together to cast their vote for president. Again, this is not an opinion, this is fact. I didn't make the rules. It's written in the United States Constitution, okay? So what happens is when the electors vote on December 14th and send in those certificates, those state certificates of votes, then in January, which is coming up, that joint session of Congress gets held, the votes are read, the winner is then declared, okay? So this has not been decided yet. And I think it's really, really important for us all to keep in mind that a lot can go down between now and then. And history has proven that this has happened before and that a lot can go down. Okay, if you can recall the election of 2000, Al Gore versus George W. Bush, the media had Al Gore as a projected winner for nearly 37 days. Recount. All the states were recounting. I think it was the big issue with Florida. And then there was Ohio, and it was another swing state that I think had an issue. I think it may have been Wisconsin at the time, okay? For 37 days, everybody rejoiced and celebrated as Al Gore was the declared projected winner as per the media. But on December 14th, after those electoral college votes came in, that all changed.
I'm old enough to remember that, so I didn't want to get too excited about saying that Joe Biden is the winner. Now we turn to the other side of the debate. It only took AOC 15 months to become a complete DC sellout. By C. Douglas Golden, this was written back in April. It is the last scene, the most famous one from the 1972 movie The Candidate. Robert Redford's character, Bill McKay, having essentially given up all of his beliefs for a Senate seat, is alone in a room with his campaign manager as reporters clamor outside. It was the existential cry of the politician with no morals left to bargain with. What do we do now? Powerful stuff. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez must have watched that in school at some point, probably when her U.S. history teacher decided they wanted some time to mark papers. AOC's was a different story, though. She would be unique. I don't know whether they still teach history in U.S. schools or not. They probably wouldn't want someone like me teaching it. After she won a shock victory in a primary, there wasn't much of a general election to speak of. She didn't have the Bill McKay problem. All she had to do was smile along with Stephen Colbert and things would be fine. But 15 months after being sworn in as a U.S. Congresswoman, AOC is having her Bill McKay moment. The troublesome thing with her is that she isn't even at the point where she's asking her campaign manager what she does now. We're maybe at the beginning of the third act. However, as a report published by Politico on Monday pointed out, the darling of the left seems to be rapidly getting subsumed into the Democratic Party establishment. The piece by Alex Thompson and Holly Otterbein noted at the outset that Ocasio-Cortez has done significantly less campaigning for candidates willing to primary sitting members of Congress, something she and other far-left politicians aligned with the Justice Democrats were known for during the 2018 cycle. That's how she got into office, after all. In 2018, for instance, she was on the stump for St. Louis area candidate Cori Bush, who lost a primary to a garden-variety liberal, Representative William Lacey Clay. Bush is taking him on again, but this time with no support from AOC, who's only backed two primary challengers endorsed by the Justice Democrats this cycle. Those are Jessica Cisneros in Texas and Marie Newman in Illinois, both of whom had some support from the establishment wing of the party because their opponents were pro-life. Ocasio-Cortez's endorsement moves are not a fluke, but part of a larger change over the past several months, the article read. After her disruptive, burn-it-down early months in Congress, Ocasio-Cortez, who colleagues say is often conflict-averse in person, has increasingly been trying to work more within the system. She is building coalitions with fellow Democratic members and picking her fights more selectively. That's not exactly how you win an insurgent candidacy against an establishment figure, but once you win the election, a lot like Bill McKay did in The Candidate, it doesn't necessarily make much sense to continue being an insurgent. Also gone are her plans for a corporate-free caucus along the lines of the House Freedom Caucus for Republicans, and presumably not just because corporate-free caucus only sounds appealing to the kind of person who finds democracy now exciting. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, with whom she was once feuding bitterly, is now referred to by AOC as the mama bear of the Democratic Party, words that don't sound like they were crafted by AOC herself. This is me talking. I agree with that. I didn't trust that right off the bat. I thought AOC wouldn't call her mama bear. Somebody told her to say that. And look who's speaking favorably of AOC now. The Democratic Party is the party of coalitions, not a cult. James Carville. Boo! The hyper-caffeinated political hack, best known for his work with Clinton Incorporated, said of the new AOC, "I've observed her. I think she's really talented, that she's really smart. Maybe she is. I don't speak for her," coming to the conclusion that she wants to be part of the coalition. Didn't see that partnership coming, did you? Center for American Progress head Neera Tanden, whatever you want to call her, meanwhile told Politico that AOC's shift is a sign of leadership. There are some people on the left who thought that their views represented a strong majority. Some people on the left. And the primary process has shown, after they took it away from Bernie, after you fuckers took it away from Bernie, that voters diverged. That Bernie Sanders is winning a minority and smaller minority than he had 4 years ago, Neera said. This is me again. Even with a supposedly free and fair election, the mainstream media manufactured the consent of the wine track moms, and it's still not fair. The media stole it from Bernie as well as the hacked ballot boxes. So Neera, you can just take some other advice I've given you in previous shows. I don't have to bring that back up here. Back to the story. The Congresswoman's supporters are torn, Thompson and Otterbein said, between embracing the new AOC and discounting this as the behavior of a sellout. One imagines nothing is so divisive as her relationship with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, a 2020 Democratic candidate for president. AOC endorsed Sanders and had been one of his most effective surrogates out on the campaign trail. However, on March 13, HuffPost reported that several sources within the Sanders campaign confirmed Ocasio-Cortez refused to campaign with Sanders after the New Hampshire primary. It was like pulling teeth to get her to New Hampshire, a source told HuffPo. They managed to get her up there once for a rally the day before the February 12th primary. Between then and March 8th, several days after Sanders' Super Tuesday losses, she wouldn't return to the campaign trail for Bernie. That's about all I needed to know. And then there was the matter of a January speech in which Ocasio-Cortez declined to mention Sanders by name as she closed, a fact which Vanity Fair said led to a nasty gram text from Sanders' campaign manager Fez Shakir. She also chastised the Bernie bros over their penchant for online harassment and tacitly went after Sanders and the progressive movement for being too conflict-based, which is, last I had checked, what she had built her brand on. There have also been 2 major staff departures from AOC's team, Chief of Staff Saika Chakrabarti and Communications Director Corbin Trent. Chakrabarti, co-founder of the Justice Democrats, was behind much of that primarying and had called some moderate members of the Democratic caucus New Southern Democrats. Trent, meanwhile, reportedly didn't just want AOC to push for Medicare for all, but rather a completely nationalized healthcare system like Britain's National Health Service. The point that I want to end with from this article is that it's difficult to make points by railing against the establishment when you're quickly becoming part of the establishment. You can't have it both ways, AOC. You can either keep taking your small dollar donations, which keeps you from being beholden to big corporations, or you can suck up to the power of the people who are already beholden to those corporations. You lost me when you pulled away from Bernie during the primaries. The way this looks to me is that it's just another charade and you'll become the next sheepdog that sucks all of our power away next time.